Ladies and gentlemen, life is a journey filled with lessons, and one of the hardest lessons you'll learn is about people. People who come into your life not to build, not to support, but to use. At first, their words are smooth, their intentions seem genuine, and their presence feels like a blessing. But over time, the mask slips. You realize that their loyalty wasn't to you, it was to what you could do for them. You see, there are individuals who thrive on taking advantage of others. They see your kindness as weakness, your generosity as a resource, and your time as a commodity they can waste. But the moment you wake up, the moment you set boundaries and start saying no, the true colors shine through. And the true colors shine through. They get angry. Oh, they get angry because they can't manipulate you anymore. They can't benefit from your hard work while giving nothing in return. They can't drain your energy, your spirit, your soul, and leave you to pick up the pieces. Their anger is not a reflection of your worth, but of their inability to control you anymore. The truth is, when you decide to prioritize yourself, it makes people uncomfortable, especially those who only valued you for what they could take. They'll call you selfish, ungrateful, and even try to guilt you into going back to who you were. But let me tell you something. Being kind doesn't mean being a doormat. Being compassionate doesn't mean sacrificing your peace for someone else's convenience. Your life is not a playground for users. It is a battlefield where you fight for your dreams, your joy, and your peace of mind. You are not obligated to let anyone who doesn't respect you stay in your life. When you break free, when you stand tall and reclaim your power, you force people to look at themselves, and that reflection, it terrifies them. So let them be angry, let them huff and puff, because their frustration is proof of your growth. They were never meant to stay. Their departure is your elevation. There comes a moment in life when the veil is lifted, and you begin to see people for who they truly are. This awakening often doesn't come easy. It's usually born out of experiences that leave you feeling drained, unappreciated, or even betrayed. It starts with a pattern, a subtle recurring feeling that something is off. You notice that some individuals are always there when they need something from you, but when the tables are turned, their absence is deafening. It's in those moments that clarity begins to creep in, and you start to see the relationships in your life for what they truly are. Recognizing when people are using you requires a mix of self-awareness and a willingness to face uncomfortable truths. These realizations often hit hard because they challenge the narratives we've created about the people we care about. Perhaps you told yourself that a friend or family member was always busy when they didn't show up for you, or you excused their lack of reciprocity by telling yourself that they didn't have the resources to give back. But over time, the excuses wear thin, and the reality becomes unavoidable. You realize that their kindness was conditional, their words were calculated, and their presence was more about convenience than genuine care. These people are skilled at identifying givers, those who are empathetic, nurturing, and willing to go the extra mile. They exploit these traits, making you feel needed and appreciated, just enough to keep you hooked. They know how to manipulate situations, making their needs seem urgent and their struggles paramount, all while ignoring yours. This is a long-term game. What makes this awakening so difficult is the emotional conflict it creates. On one hand, you may feel used, betrayed, and even foolish for not seeing it sooner. On the other hand, there's a part of you that still clings to the hope that the relationship can change, that they can see your worth beyond what you can do for them. This duality can keep you stuck, questioning your judgment and delaying the steps you need to take to break free. But the most important aspect of this realization is understanding that it is not a reflection of your character, but theirs. You didn't deserve to be used, and your kindness wasn't misplaced. It was misused. This awakening is painful, but it is also powerful. It's the moment you begin to see the truth and reclaim your energy, your peace, and your sense of self-worth. Manipulation often hides in plain sight, disguised as charm, flattery, or even a false sense of loyalty. At first glance, it can be difficult to see when someone is using your kindness and generosity to their advantage. They may present themselves as caring and considerate, weaving a narrative that makes you believe their intentions are pure. But over time, patterns begin to emerge, revealing a more calculated approach to the relationship. These individuals don't value you for who you are, they value you for what you can provide. People who manipulate others have an acute sense of how to exploit the strengths and vulnerabilities of those around them. they can identify a giver from miles away, someone who is empathetic, reliable, and willing to go out of their way to help. To a manipulator, these traits are opportunities. They know how to appeal to your emotions, often playing the victim or exaggerating their struggles to elicit your help. Whether it's your time, resources, or emotional support, they have a way of framing their needs as emergencies that only you can resolve. What makes their actions so insidious is that they rarely come across as overtly selfish at first. Instead, manipulators often use subtle tactics to keep you invested. They might praise your generosity, making you feel valued for your giving nature, only to turn around and ask for more. They create an illusion of mutual respect and care, but their actions rarely align with their words. When it's your turn to lean on them, they're suddenly too busy, unavailable, or dismissive. I told you my business partner and I. Over time, this imbalance becomes glaringly obvious. You begin to notice that the relationship is built entirely on what you can give, not on a shared foundation of support. This realization can be both liberating and painful because manipulators are adept at making you question yourself. They might accuse you of being selfish if you try to pull back or set boundaries. Their goal is to maintain control, to keep you doubting your worth apart from your ability to serve their needs. It's important to understand that manipulation is a learned behavior for many people, a means of getting what they want without considering the impact on others. Recognizing this dynamic doesn't make you weak, it makes you wise. The power lies in acknowledging that your generosity should never be mistaken for a license to be exploited. True relationships are built on reciprocity, not manipulation. Number 6, saying no is one of the most powerful yet difficult things you can do, especially when you've been accustomed to putting others first. Setting boundaries is not just about keeping people at a distance, it's about creating a protective barrier around your peace, energy, and self-worth. It's an act of self-love and a declaration that your time and resources are not infinite. For those who've been used to taking advantage of your kindness, this can feel like a shocking change. But for you, it's a necessary step toward reclaiming control over your life. Boundaries are not walls. They are guidelines that define what you will and will not accept in relationships. They serve as a reminder to yourself and others that you value your well-being and won't allow anyone to compromise it. At first, setting these boundaries may feel uncomfortable, especially if you've been in the habit of always saying yes. You might worry about being seen as selfish, rude, or ungrateful, but it's important to remember that boundaries are not about rejecting others, they're about protecting yourself. When you begin to set limits, you'll notice resistance, especially from those who have benefited the most from your lack of boundaries. These individuals may try to guilt you, manipulate you, or even accuse you of changing for the worse. Their anger or disappointment is not a reflection of your actions, but of their inability to continue exploiting your generosity. They are reacting to the loss of access, not the loss of you as a person. This can be a painful realization, but is also empowering. As you grow more confident in saying no, you'll start to see the relationships in your life through a clearer lens. Those who truly care about you will respect your boundaries, even if it takes time for them to adjust. They'll understand that your refusal to be overextended isn't a rejection of them, but a commitment to yourself. On the other hand, those who only valued you for what you could provide will likely drift away, leaving room for healthier connections to flourish. Setting boundaries requires practice and courage. It involves learning to prioritize your needs without guilt and recognizing that you have a right to protect your energy. It's not about being unkind, it's about being fair to yourself. The more you exercise this right, the stronger you become and the less susceptible you are to being used. Boundaries are not a luxury. They are a necessity for anyone who values their peace and self-respect. When you start setting boundaries and standing up for yourself, one of the first things you'll notice is how certain people react. Their anger, frustration, or even hostility is often the loudest indicator of their true intentions. These reactions are not about you, they are about the power and access they've lost. For people who are accustomed to taking advantage of your time, energy, or resources, your newfound assertiveness feels like an attack on their convenience. Their anger is a mask for their disappointment at no longer being able to manipulate you. It's important to recognize that this anger stems from their own shortcomings. People who genuinely care about you won't lash out when you set boundaries. They may take a moment to adjust, but they will ultimately respect your decisions. However, those who are only invested in what they could gain from you will respond differently. They may try to guilt you, reminding you of all the times they needed you and implying that you're letting them down by prioritizing yourself. People, this is not concern, it's manipulation, designed to make you second-guess your choices. Others may resort to outright hostility, accusing you of being selfish, ungrateful, or even mean. This is especially common when you've consistently been the person who says yes to everything. To them, your shift in behavior feels like a betrayal, not because you've done something wrong, but because they've grown entitled to your generosity. Their anger is often less about losing a friend or loved one, and more about losing the benefits of being connected to you. The key to navigating these reactions is understanding that their emotions are not your responsibility. You are not obligated to explain or justify your boundaries to anyone who refuses to respect them. It's natural to feel guilty at first, especially if you're someone who cares deeply about others. But over time, you'll realize that their anger is a reflection of their dependency on you, not a measure of your character. Standing firm in the face of these reactions can be challenging, but it's also empowering. Each time you refuse to bend under the weight of their guilt trips or accusations, you reinforce your own sense of worth. The people who matter will adapt, and those who don't will fade away, making room for healthier, more balanced relationships. Their anger is temporary, but the peace you gain from maintaining your boundaries is long-lasting. Prioritizing yourself is one of the most transformative decisions you can make, yet it often comes with challenges. For those who have spent much of their lives putting others first, it can feel selfish, uncomfortable, or even wrong to focus on your own needs. However, self-preservation is not selfish. It's essential. It is about recognizing that your well-being matters and that you cannot pour from an empty cup. If you are constantly giving without replenishing yourself, you risk burnout, resentment, and losing sight of who you are. Taking care of yourself means understanding your limits and respecting them. It means acknowledging when you're tired, stressed, or emotionally drained, and taking steps to address those feelings before they overwhelm you. This could look like taking time to rest, saying no to commitments that don't align with your goals, or even stepping back from relationships that consistently take more than they give. It means building. By doing so, you're not abandoning others. You're ensuring that you can show up fully and authentically for the people and things that truly matter. One of the biggest misconceptions about self-preservation is that it's an act of selfishness. Society often praises self-sacrifice, particularly for those in caregiving roles, and places guilt on individuals who prioritize themselves. But the truth is, neglecting your own needs doesn't serve anyone in the long run. When you're constantly depleted, you're not able to give your best to others or yourself. Self-preservation allows you to recharge and maintain the balance needed to navigate life's demands. Unfortunately, not everyone will understand or support your decision to put yourself first. Those who have benefited from your lack of boundaries may label you as cold, distant, or uncaring. They may try to manipulate you into reverting to old patterns by playing on your guilt or emotions. It's important to remember that their discomfort with your self-preservation is not your responsibility. You are not obligated to sacrifice your peace to make someone else comfortable. Also, when they leave, you want them to be happy and make you the target. Self-preservation is a continuous practice that requires courage and commitment. It involves regularly checking in with yourself and being honest about what you need to thrive. It's about valuing your physical, emotional, and mental health enough to protect them, even when it means disappointing others. By prioritizing yourself, you set a powerful example for those around you that it is not only okay, but necessary to honor your own needs and well-being. When you decide to prioritize your own well-being and set firm boundaries, one of the most common reactions you'll encounter is being labeled as selfish or ungrateful. These accusations can feel like a punch to the gut, especially when they come from people you care about or have supported in the past. But it's crucial to recognize these labels for what they are: attempts to make you feel guilty for no longer being as available, accommodating, or giving as you once were. So, the people who resort to calling you selfish are often those who benefited the most from your inability to say no. They became accustomed to your constant presence, your unwavering support, and your willingness to put their needs above your own. When that dynamic shifts, they feel a sense of loss, not because of who you are, but because of what they can no longer gain from you. My dad, instead of acknowledging their dependency, they project their frustrations onto you, framing your self-care as a flaw rather than a necessity. Being accused of selfishness can be particularly challenging because it taps into our natural desire to be liked, valued, and seen as a good person. For many, the fear of being misunderstood or judged harshly can lead to second-guessing their boundaries or reverting to old patterns. This is exactly what those making these accusations hope for, that their words will push you back into a role where their needs are prioritized over your own. It's also important to understand that some accusations may come from a place of genuine misunderstanding rather than manipulation. People who have always seen you as the reliable, go-to person may struggle to adjust when you start to prioritize yourself. They might not realize how much of yourself you've sacrificed to meet their expectations. There may be people in your life who struggle to protect you. Over time, as they see the positive changes in your life, some of these individuals may come to respect and even admire your decision to take care of yourself. Ultimately, the labels of selfish or ungrateful say more about the person using them than they do about you. They reflect an unwillingness to respect your choices and a limited understanding of the importance of self-preservation. You are not selfish for valuing your peace, time, and energy. On the contrary, taking care of yourself allows you to show up as your best self for those who genuinely care about you and respect your boundaries. Your worth is not determined by how much you give to others, but by how authentically and intentionally you live your life. Standing firm in your boundaries is an act of strength and self-respect, but it's not always easy. Once you begin asserting yourself and making decisions that prioritize your well-being, you may face pushback from people who are accustomed to the old, more accommodating version of you. This resistance can come in the form of guilt trips, emotional manipulation, or even outright anger. Yet choosing to stand your ground despite these reactions is a transformative process. Rainway is the rarest of the rain. Let it fall. It is a declaration that you value yourself enough not to be swayed by the opinions or demands of others. One of the hardest parts of standing firm is dealing with the self-doubt that often arises. You may question whether you're being too harsh or unreasonable, particularly if others frame your boundaries as a problem. This inner conflict is normal, especially if you've spent years placing others' needs above your own. However, it's crucial to remind yourself why you set those boundaries in the first place. They are not meant to punish others. They are meant to protect your peace, energy, and mental health. As you remain steadfast, you'll start to notice a shift, not just in how others treat you, but in how you perceive yourself. Each time you hold your ground, you reinforce your sense of worth and gain confidence in your ability to advocate for yourself. This newfound strength becomes a foundation for healthier, more balanced relationships. It teaches others how to treat you, making it clear that you will no longer tolerate being taken advantage of. Not everyone will respond positively to your boundaries, and that's okay. Some may distance themselves or even leave your life altogether. While this can be painful, it's also a blessing in disguise. Those who respect your boundaries are the ones who truly care about you, while those who don't are likely the ones who were benefiting at your expense. Their departure creates space for relationships that are built on mutual respect, trust, and genuine care. Considering genuine care, standing firm doesn't mean being inflexible or unkind. It means being clear about your limits and honoring them, no matter how others react. It's about recognizing that your value is not tied to how much you give or how much you endure for others. The people who matter will see your strength for what it is, an act of self-respect, and they will adapt. And as you continue to stand tall, you'll discover that the peace and empowerment that come from honoring yourself far outweigh the discomfort of others' disapproval. Understanding that the departure of certain people from your life is a step toward your growth and elevation can be a liberating realization. When you set boundaries and refuse to allow yourself to be used, some people will naturally distance themselves. This may feel like a loss at first, especially if these were individuals you cared about deeply or had a long history with. But their absence is not a reflection of your failure. It's a sign that you are evolving and stepping into a version of yourself that no longer aligns with those who only valued what they could gain from you. Growth is a process that often requires shedding what no longer serves you. Just as a tree loses its leaves in autumn to prepare for new growth in the spring, you too must let go of relationships, habits, and dynamics that hinder your progress. The people who leave when you begin to prioritize yourself were likely never invested in you as a whole person. They were invested in what you could do for them. Their departure is not a loss, but a clearing of space for individuals who will truly appreciate and respect you. Elevation comes when you create an environment that supports your aspirations, peace, and well-being. As you distance yourself from toxic or one-sided relationships, you'll notice a shift in your energy and perspective. The mental and emotional space once consumed by these individuals can now be redirected toward your goals, passions, and meaningful connections. This newfound clarity allows you to see opportunities and relationships that align with your values and enhance your life. It's important to recognize that not everyone is meant to accompany you on your journey. Some people are only in your life for a season, and their purpose may be to teach you lessons about your own strength, resilience, and worth. When they leave, it's a sign that their role in your story has ended, and it's time for you to move forward. Ultimately, as you grow, you'll attract people and opportunities that resonate with the person you're becoming. These new connections will be built on mutual respect, trust, and shared values, providing the support and encouragement you need to continue rising. Embracing this elevation means trusting the process and believing that what lies ahead is far greater than anything you've left behind. Every step forward, even when it feels painful, is a step toward the life you deserve. It starts with what you read. In the journey of life, not everyone is meant to stay, and not everyone deserves access to your energy, your kindness, or your heart. Recognizing when people are taking advantage of you is not a sign of weakness, but a testament to your growing self-awareness and strength. Setting boundaries, prioritizing your well-being, and standing firm in your worth are not acts of selfishness. They are acts of self-respect. They are acts of self-respect. As you grow and elevate yourself, some people will resist, criticize, or even leave, but their departure is not a loss. It is a necessary shedding, making room for healthier, more authentic connections to flourish. True relationships are built on reciprocity, mutual respect, and care, not manipulation or convenience. Any earthly creature is a generator of life. Remember, your value is not determined by how much you give to others or how much you endure for their sake. It is rooted in who you are, in your integrity, your peace, and your purpose. When you choose to honor yourself, you teach others how to treat you and create a life that reflects your true worth. So let them be angry, let them misunderstand, let them leave. Those who truly matter will remain, and those who don't will only pave the way for something better. In the end, choosing yourself is not just an act of courage, it is an act of love, and it is the greatest gift you can give to yourself.